We'll keep it going for Jamie Farr, Loretta, Switt, and Jeff Maxwell.
Can we hear that again? I missed it. Great. Direction, wonderful.
We love you guys.
Oh, we love you. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here.
So, it is, of course, still the strike time, and our guests here have decided that they're comfortable with taking questions from the audience this morning. But just please keep the strike in mind. We're not allowed to talk about strike work, and these guys are pros, so they'll be able to navigate that if someone asks a question that's a little, in a gray area. But let's take it away. You want to go straight to the audience, or
go on there? It's you, Mr. Farr.
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm supposed to talk now? Did anybody ask me a question?
No.
Everyone knew who I was? Okay. I'm Jamie Farr, and is somebody going to come to the microphone?
you know what? I'll
Anybody want to ask a question for all three of us, or just one of us, or whatever it is?
Hands going up.
It is Sunday morning, so we'll take a question from our Lord and Savior here first.
It's tough for me to answer. I'm sorry. I can't get that out.
This is super surreal for me because I grew up as my dad showed me as a kid MASH episodes, so this doesn't seem real. But
well, it's not real. It's all LSD induced.
And we should actually that is God.
So artificial intelligence here, but that's all right.
Well, I'm sorry for starting us off on a very serious episode. I want to ask about dreams, if that's okay.
Sure, what do you want to ask?
Jamie Farr, I want to know what it was like. It seemed like you filmed on location in Toledo. What was that like? What was it like?
They replicated it. It actually looked like that back in my hometown. You're talking about the episode where I'm going in to Toledo on the train or something, and I walk in, and I'm looking at, and there's signs there of different places in the state of Ohio. Is that what you're talking about? And then I happen to look into a window, and I see Harry Morgan, who's pointing at me, and then I see myself on an operating table. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yes. Well, then I just talked about it. And it was, they were wonderful. They took pictures of my area that I grew up in that area, and then they replicated it on the back lot at 20th Century Fox. Oh, I'm not supposed to say 20th Century Fox. We saw it strike again at that studio on People Boulevard.
And Loretta, there were behind-the-scenes photos that showed Alan and Olga with you during your dream sequence. Was Hawkeye? Were there any scenes that were filmed with Hawkeye that were cut?
He was not in any scene with me in dreams. I was in my wedding gown, covered with blood, and the soldiers, the dead soldiers, were marching past me, and I was looking for my husband, who was there. He's very, very imaginative. Did you like the episode? Because it was such a far-fetched, like a television show, supposed to be funny, right? But we do this extraordinary thing into our psyches, or going to sleep. Did you like it? Did people?
Yeah.
That's all we care about. As long as
That's 11 of you, so the rest.
Actually, Alan got the idea from some of the Italian movies, and that's why he tried that on. And as Loretta said, boy, it was very experimental, but I thought it was a wonderful, wonderful show, and I'm glad again that you all enjoyed it.
And I do not want to leave you out. If Igor had a dream, what would it be in that episode?
If I had a dream.
I apologize.
Well, that probably serving really good food.
been very happy about.
That was their dream, too. Somebody's
Igor wrote a book, a cookbook, which is, by the way, excellent.
Thank you very much.
Not at all.
It's really good with garlic and butter. Secrets of the Mash Mess, the lost recipes of Private Igor, the 50th anniversary edition. Okay, that's the commercial, thank you.
Oh, it's next.
All right, we're over here.
Hello.
Bye.
Hi, over here.
Oh,
Over here.
over there.
Yeah. So it's actually awesome to meet you guys. I grew up with my dad and my grandfather watching your shows. Like we all together, even my brother, which he never watched TV. But we grew up watching MASH, and I just really wanted to ask, since I saw that you guys were coming to Fan Expo, I wanted to ask one single question. What was the most uncomfortable uniforms that you had to wear, especially you, Jamie? Like, you had to wear some really uncomfortable stuff. Like, but I mean, this is for the whole group here. I kind of am curious.
all right. There were some outfits that were really very difficult to wear. One of them was the Statue of Liberty one. Because that was really tough. But I tell you, to be honest with you, the most difficult thing, and again, I tell Loretta and all the ladies in the audience and that, how the hell you wore those short skirts and then sat on a folding chair that's metal. Because I gotta tell you, I sit on that, whoa! I was telling everybody the shoes that I wore, the brand name was El Grande. So, and they were very, very expensive, to get. And they used to have me running, through the area and everything else, and I'd break the heels. And so they say, gee, you can't keep doing this, and we're going over budget with the high heels, right? So eventually, when they didn't show any feet in the series, we were allowed to wear, instead of combat boots or high heels, we could wear like tennis shoes or some comfortable shoes in there, especially in the operating room. But
Or when you stand forever. And
right. I hope that answered your question.
All three of you. The question went to all three of you.
Oh, all three of us.
most uncomfortable. I think the dress pinks, they were not very comfortable. I loved the fatigues, and I'm a casual person anyway. I prefer slacks and t-shirts and stuff, so that was all very comfortable. But I have to tell you, kind of a funny thing with Jamie Farr, who had the best wardrobe in the show. Certainly, being the only woman on the show, I envied his wardrobe. And on Mondays, when we would rehearse, we were in civilian clothes, he'd actually walk over to me and say, "Is that one of mine?" The nerve!
You don't want to hear about my underwear.
Oh, they do.
Really? Well, this is
Big D.
This is a sick crowd.
All right, we'll go over here. Hi, what's your name?
My name is Catherine Houston. This question is for any or all of you. Did you ever have the opportunity to give feedback on defining your own character, or did you just go with as it was written? Because I just was curious as if there was any of your own ideas incorporated into your own characters.
Why don't you go first?
The script is not going to define a character. That's our work. That's what we did, each of us. So we can't get a script that has something in it, for example, that doesn't ring true to us. We're the ones who say, that's not me, somebody else, or even a joke. I remember we would have sessions where, let's say, Gary Bergdorf would say, that's not my joke. I think that belongs to Father Mulcahy. And Bill would say, yeah, I thought that too, Gary. And we would just work it out. But that was the beauty of the communal life we had on that show. Everybody just wanting the best possible result. And that's what made MASH. It was an entity in and of itself, not one person, but this incredible magic group that I worked with. But we all contributed to the characters and the growth therein.
May I add that huge saying in her character, and she would probably tell it better than I would. But you are all proud of her as the major, and she fought to make sure that they didn't make her, one of the Hogan's Heroes kind of character.
Cardboard
Yeah. So go ahead, Loretta. You tell them you do it so well.
Just recently, there was a wonderful article that I took as maybe the biggest compliment ever, that Loretta Switt earned or won the right to go from Hot Lips to Margaret. And as a result, and for the benefit of every servicewoman out there, and also the women on television in series. And I was just thrilled about it. I called Jamie and I read it to Jamie. Jamie said, then they should know that wasn't that was the biggest battle in Korea. Many of our gentlemen in production were not enlightened, let's say. So they would say, oh no, she wouldn't say that. Excuse me, I'm she. You're talking to she. This is me, she. I would say that. But it was an adventure. However, I think we were all so well-meaning that it worked out, even if it was sometimes bloody and a little painful. And I'm just so proud of Margaret. I'm so proud of my major. Yeah,
Thank
really.
you.
Also, if I may add, we were very defensive of our characters, and even though my character wanted to get out of the military, there was things, as Loretta said, where you get some dialogue in or an action that you have that they had to make the script work. There was the one with Gregory Harrison, where he's come in. Gregory Harrison is a soldier, lieutenant or something, and he had been married, but they got separated, and his wife was a nurse in one of the tents, and I'm supposed to be on guard duty. And they said, oh, you know what, supposedly he sneaks into it because I fell asleep. And I said, no, Klinger wants to get out, but he cares about the unit. I said, rather than have me fall asleep, have me get diverted from some kind of action that's someplace else as a guard, that I have to leave that for a moment to attend to that so he could sneak in. And they agreed to that. So that's why, as I said, even though Klinger was a perfect, I can't say that, the character
was
that I
also a
played
soldier.
on the show, even though that he was still a good soldier.
Correct, yes. And, well, initially, from day one, he created this character because the first appearance, we had a different director, or every week we had different people, but he didn't understand what they wanted in the movie. He sees Klinger with a hat and a whack outfit and high heels, and he has Jamie play it like a homosexual, skippering around in it. And Jamie said, that's, first of all, demeaning, but it's not funny. Let me play it straight. That's funny. My hairy legs and a straight guy trying to get out of the army, and so he created the reality of that character, and that's why he was funny. He played it for real, and I think that goes for all the characters really on this show. Everybody was very real. I know, except for you, the serving that food, that was not real.
I remember one time my character, I went in and they said, well, we're going to do a scene with hot dogs. And I said, weenies. And I said, hey, let's cream them. Cream of weenies. You can see the recipe in my book, Secret to the Mash Hot On sale now at Amazon.
All right, we have a question right over here.
You have hairy legs? Do you really?
Not only that, they're bold. Oh. They're really bold. Rex Kelton used to say, yeah, your legs are so bold, when you run, you look like an egg beater.
Thank you guys for coming. This is wonderful. This was a family show, believe it or not, for me and my mom. She was a nurse, and so we actually, thank you. So it was a wonderful family show that we watched always. I do have a question. So the show was filmed sort of during the end period of the Vietnam War, and obviously today with social media, things are a lot different in terms of the news, but I'm just wondering, did you guys notice a change in terms of just how the show was treated after the war ended? What was like the biggest difference that you saw? Did it affect you?
No, while we were shooting, people were already a little confused. And a silly question, which war is that you're in? What does it matter? War is war and war is hell. And we never changed that message. We were never a commercial for the war. Come with us, we're going to have fun. There was never that. And that was a community agreement before we even started. We're never going to be a John Wayne movie, take that hill, no. It was always going to be very real because we were going to stand in blood for 18 hours patching bodies together that weren't old enough to shave. That's serious stuff. And that's what we did.
Also, I don't know if you knew this or not, but several members of our cast served in the military. Did everybody know that? Mike Farrell, BJ served in the
Jamie
Marine
Farr
Corps.
was in Korea.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you, William Christopher was in Germany. He was stationed in Germany, and I wore my own dog tags on the series, and I served in Japan with temporary duty in Korea, and I actually went through MASH units, and never knowing that I was going to come back and resurrect my career and be in the series with them. So there was a lot of accuracy too. The Rosie's Bar, for example, they used to go to Korea and ask several of the people and they told them about this. It wasn't a bar though; it was a brothel. So they had to change it for the series, and they had a bar. And I happened to be on an airplane, on an honor flight, with some of the members from different wars, veterans that were on it. And the gentleman that gave them that was sitting behind me, and he told me the story that he was the one that gave us Rosie for Rosie's Bar.
Thank you for your service.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'm sure some of you people are served. Thank you all for your service. Very nice. Thank you.
All right, I have one back here.
Hi, I just want to say thank you very much for coming. My name is Cindy. I'm actually crew on my lunch break. But thank you for your service. Jamie, I spoke to you briefly on Friday. I don't know if you can see me. I'm right here. But I'm right here. To your left, to your left.
That doesn't matter. You're just wonderful.
Okay, sorry. I just want to say thank you for your service again.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yes,
I do. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And the thing is, I was a cook in the Army, but it's completely different from
Jeff.
MASH.
Oh, go ahead and go out there.
Completely, I was a cook,
Are you writing a book to counter his book?
Hey.
yeah, and I just want to say, I have a question for you. You mentioned to me Friday that it was so cold and freezing that you had to put alcohol so that it wouldn't freeze. What did you do?
No, that's a story. I told
Okay.
Loretta and I told Jeff that
Okay.
we were on a paratroopers airplane. We had a SAC commander, strategic air commander, on an airplane. It was a paratroopers airplane, so they had corrugated metal and bench seats on it. And we had gone to Korea to open Armed Forces television there. And we had our Army with us, we had Marines, we had Navy, and we had Air Force. So we're going, as a matter of fact, we were supposed to leave that night, but it was so cold. All the jeeps and trucks and everything, tanks were all frozen. We had to sleep in the luggage racks that they had, and with a pot-belly stove with all of our clothes on. And the next morning they said, okay, you can get out. So we get on the airplane, we're heading over the Sea of Japan to return to Tachikawa back in Japan. And it was a DC-3, the two engines froze on us. And so they start giving out, he's trying to, get the propellers going. And they started giving us parachutes to jump out of the airplane. Even the Air Force guys hadn't done that. And everybody's frightened, everybody, and there's like a John Wayne movie. He was going, bump, 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 and the propellers go, bing, bing, like that metal would hit. And he kept dropping in altitude. We had the parachutes on. We wouldn't have been able to live there because of the hypothermia that we would have gotten anyway. So we're all praying, we're all wondering what's happening. And as the airplane dropped down, they fed alcohol into the propellers and the wings to chop off the ice. And again, as the temperature dropped, as we kept going down and down, all the ice fell off of the wings and the propellers and took off. And of course, we all cheered. Yeah, that was really, really very, very dangerous, exciting. It was one of the scariest moments in my life that I ever had.
You know, it actually is a fact that Korea is the coldest place on the globe in the winter and the hottest in the summer. So you have this going in, forgetting the war for a second, you're already in this climate that's going to kill you. The greatest harm to our boys came in the winter from frostbite. The highest ratio of loss was from frostbite. The second, in the summer, snake bite. The third was the Korean action. It's kind of interesting that you couldn't win for losing. You know?
There was a fourth, too. In the summertime, the Koreans, for fertilizer, use human feces. So they would do that. We used to call them honey buckets. And with my nose, you don't want to be there in the summertime.
Do we have a question here in the center?
Thank you for coming. I could go on and on about why MASH is the greatest television show ever and why it's my personal favorite, many of ours. But
Go ahead. What the hell?
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your career just prior to being cast for MASH and what your expectations were of the roles when you were cast. And then did you struggle with typecasting after MASH was over?
I give you Mr. Maxwell.
Yes.
Go.
Well, I had no career at all. No, I came to MASH from nightclubs. I had a comedy partner. We were a comedy team. And we had a nice career for about 7 years, and then he retired. And I was going to kill myself. And I happened to stumble into some friends at 20th Century Fox, and through a series of conversations, I said, well, I'll try. They said, well, we'll put you on the show, see if you like acting. And I went, I'm really not crazy about actors. They're kind of dull. Not these two. I'm not talking about these two. And but I did, and I showed up, and I met a lot of wonderful people, and I thought, well, I can learn something here. And I did. 9 years later, that turned into a job and a career. So that's what I did before MASH.
Excellent reporting. Thank you, Mr. Maxwell.
And furthermore, and so then I wrote.
Mr. Farr, would you like to grab the ball?
Yeah. This is my 70th year in this stupid business, and I thank you. And I was a high school kid in the city of Toledo, Ohio, at the Lowe's Valentine, watching MGM movies. And a year later, after I had attended the Pasadena Playhouse, Theater Arts in Pasadena, I screen tested for a movie and got the part. It was called Blackboard Jungle. And it starred Len Ford, Sidney Poitier, Louis Calvert, Vic Morrow, Paul Mazursky, and the director was Richard Brooks. Now you can imagine a kid sitting there watching an MGM movie, and the next year he's on the MGM lot, and you go into the commissary, and there is Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn, Clark Gable, Elizabeth Taylor. It was you died and went to heaven there. And anyway, I did some other movies and other things, and then I wound up doing the Red Skelton Show, and that really opened a lot of things for me. Sherwood Schwartz, who you know created Gilligan's Island and the Brady Bunch, he was Red's head writer, and I had done a pilot for CBS. It was a Navy show with Craig Stevens, Lola Albright, Richard Jekyll, and Alan Hale Jr. And the pilot didn't sell, but they liked the character that I played, and they liked another character that they thought Red could play on the series, because they were looking for something military to do. You know, he did Willie Lump Lump and Cauliflower McPug and all the other, Freddie the Freeloader. So they put me on the show. This is live television now, okay, live. It's not taped or anything like that. And I I had as much to do on the show. I think our first guest was Buster Crabbe. I don't know if you remember him or not. Yeah. And so Red was the only one that had not a teleprompter, but the cue cards, you know, for him to read. It was John Barrymore who gave the name to it, idiot cards, you know, because he couldn't remember the lines. And the rest of us, we had to know our lines. Well, if he started ad-libbing and that, you were going to go overtime. And so they would come to me, I'm like 19 or 20 or 20 years old, 21 years old, and they'd say, okay, listen, Jake, they're worried, you know, we're going to go overtime. Cut out pages 12 and 13 or something. What the heck with pages 12 and 13? And he's the only one that has the cue cards, you know. So I had to go, okay, and I thought about it, and then I come out and give him the cue to give the correct line so he do it. Well, I did such a good job that the character was so funny. And incidentally, when the storyline was, we're on a ship, and we're coming out of Korea, and there's a baby that's left there, abandoned baby from Korea. And Red, who's playing the chef on the show, fell in love with the baby, and he wants to adopt the baby when we land in San Francisco. And he said, well, yeah, but you can't do that, Cookie, the character. He says, you have to be married. So he decides to dress me up as his wife. So we get to San Francisco, and that's the first time I was actually in a dress and everything else. And he broke up, the audience broke up. I mean, it was a big hit. And that's what I was doing before I got drafted into the Real Army. And then and when I came back, I actually helped with Red when he went overseas to entertain the troops. And he told me, listen, when you get home, he said, it's tough, you know, because you have to start your career again. If you run into trouble, you come and see me. So I get home, it's 1959, and I'm ready to get my career going, and my dad passed away. So we didn't have any money at the house, and I was going to have to go home to help support my mother. So I went to Red at CBS to tell him that I was quitting the business. And he said, no, you're not. He says, you're a doctor of comedy just like I am. He says, you're working for me now. He says, I want to see you up at the house tomorrow. I'm putting you under contract. Took a lot of bills out of this. He said, here, gave it to me, send that home to your mother. And for the next year and a half, I traveled with Red. I did his TV shows with Peter Lorre, Boris Karloff, Errol Flynn, Martha Ray, Mike Connors, you know, all kinds of big name stars in that. And went with him to all the nightclubs around. We played the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas, the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami Beach, the Shapery in Chicago, and the Moulin Rouge in Los Angeles. So that's how I managed. I eventually said, look, Red, I don't want to be a hanger-on. And I went and wound up on the Dick Van Dyke Show. So I was a established service on that for about 5 shows. And then from there I went to the Danny Kaye Show with Harvey Korman. And then from there I went to someplace else. And then I was like Jeff, I was out of work. As Bob Hope used to say, one day you're eating the chicken, the next day you're plucking the feathers. I was plucking the feathers at that time when I got the phone call to come on that one day with this wonderful cast and that series that you so adore. So I just passed it by.
All right, we have a question again.
Hi, over here. This way, left.
No, I was going to say, do you want to hear from Loretta?
Yeah. Oh, she yes.
I was in New York, living and working in New York, and the only reason I would go to California would be to have something there to go to. It would be too risky to just pull up roots and go to California and face that kind of competition. But a job brought me to California. I was doing Agnes Gooch in a play called Mame, and I was working with Susan Hayward. She was my maid. She was divine, delicious. And I was lucky that an agent in California came to see her do Mame, but he saw me and was very taken with my work. I was making the rounds, so to speak, in California for the first time. And I went to CBS, and the casting person there said, I know you. I said, no, you don't know me. I'm nobody. You don't know me. I live in New York and I'm here. She said, no, I know you. And as she's turning a page, she sees me playing Agnes Gooch. That's why she said, while you're here, you need to call this agent because he thinks you invented the wheel. He was sitting here raving about your performance. And while you're here, go and see him because he thinks you're great. And I'm sure he'd be your agent. So I called him. And he said, he was like a Damon Runyon character, like a Guys and Dolls character. Hey, kid, yeah, I think you're great. So anyway, he said, I'll take you on, but here's the deal. I share an office with 3 other agents. They don't know you, they don't know your work, but I will represent you in the small way that I have apportioned to me in the office, like I don't do Universal. So you will be totally covered. I do CBS and I do Paramount. Anyway, he said, but listen, come on, I want to take you to lunch and I'll represent you and, quote, maybe we'll get lucky. He sent me out for the first time he sent me out. It was the lead on a Gunsmoke and with a great British director. I mean, it was like manna from heaven. And it was so delicious. I mean, I wasn't even nervous. Like, I read the hell out of that part, and the director said, yeah, And so when I ran up the stairs to my apartment, I heard the phone ringing, and it was Fred. Hey, kid, we got lucky. And so that was my first job, was the leading role on a Gunsmoke. And in those days, everybody watched Gunsmoke, Hawaii Five-0, Mannix. So these were like the top shows. And before I finished shooting Gunsmoke, I was doing a Mannix. I was booked for a Mannix and met the guy who became one of my dearest friends, Mike Connors. And anyway, from there, I got a phone call for a Hawaii Five-0. And it was a 2-parter, big deal. And I was going to be in Hawaii for 15 days. So by that time, these were all CBS shows. When the part became available on MASH for this blonde majorette, and CBS thought I was perfect. And Fox also, because I had done a show with Glenn Ford for Fox, did in Cates County. I only ran for a season, but I did the first show, which got rave notices. So Fox said, oh yeah, right, the blonde. And so when I went to, and it was just a meet, there was no script, not even pages, nothing to read. It was a hello, and this is me, and what do you think? And that was it. And I had not seen the movie, and I thought, well, let me see what happens. I'm not going to go and see the movie. I'll wait. At that point, we were on it was like a courtesy standby. They were interested, and they say to the agent, don't give her away, we'll get back to you. And we had an offer from Universal, a film with Olivia de Havilland. I slipped out. It was one of I glorious, adored her and her work, and wow. And so I thought, well, I'm in this wonderful position. Either I get a series or I get to do a film with Olivia de Havilland. I can't miss. And my agent called Gene Reynolds, the executive producer of MASH, and said, we have a firm offer for a movie for Loretta, and this is a courtesy call because there is a conflict. The shooting dates are a conflict. And Gene said, no, we want her. We were just going to call you. We've decided to go with Loretta. And that's what happened.
Can I tell you one story? And it just made me laugh. And my buddy back there in the military, she'll probably enjoy this. I told you the fact that when I was coming back, it was going to be tough, to get back and get started. Well, Red Skelton was actually served in World War II. and he was under contract to MGM Studios, and the head of the studios was Louis B. Mayer. And Red comes back to see him in his office at MGM, and he's in his military uniform. This is during World War II. And Mr. Mayer says, Red, it's so good to see you. He says, how do you like the Army? And Red said, oh, no, Mr. Mayer, I do not like the Army at all. He says, well, don't you, have lodging in it? Oh, yeah. He says, you have a barracks all over, a tent, wherever you are, and everything else. He says, what about clothing? We have clothes for the winter, clothes for the summer. He says, how about food? He says, oh, yeah, we have the mess tent, and then they always have something out in the field. He says, Red, what is it that you don't like about the Army? And Red said, bullets, Mr. Mayor, bullets.
All right, we've got time for a couple more. Here you go.
Sorry about that. I'm Lars. My dad couldn't be here today, but he wanted me to ask Jeff Maxwell, do you like liver or fish? He thought that might get a laugh. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, we have one over here on the right.
Hi. My question is for Loretta. Loretta, did you also have a good time making the television movie of the best Christmas pageant ever?
Oh God, yes. I can't tell you what a joy. These kids were so wonderful. Oh my God. And we were in Vancouver, I think, shooting, and it was just, what a splendid, wonderful director, George Schaefer. I've been trying to get a hold of, of boxes of this film to have at the autograph shows, because everybody asks for it, and I would love to give it out, especially Christmas time coming up, but we're not having any success getting it. But it was just absolutely a delight, just a delight. And it was such a great idea, that sweet little girl running up. Christ is born, and it just had such energy. It was a delicious idea to have those little ragamuffins be those kids. It was just great.
All right, we have a question here.
My dad was stationed in Korea and everything else. One of his worst stories was he tossed a flight commander off the flight deck. Do you have any real life war stories, either funny or really funny?
That was funny. I just think having me in the Army was funny. For real. There were a couple of people who tried to get out of the service when I was actually in it. They didn't dress up like my character did, but they would try to jump out of the barracks, break their legs or else we used to have to put our M1 rifles and lock them up in the barracks, and then sometimes they'd figure a way to get them out, and then if there were any ammunition left, which you're not supposed to have in there, everything's supposed to be all the ammunition taken out before they lock it up, try to shoot themselves, in the foot or something like that. But no, basically all of the guys that I met and worked with, they were all wonderful people, and unfortunately at my age, they're all gone now. I'm the last man standing, based on all of the friends that I had. So no, I don't have any. Do you have any, Loretta? Do you have any, Jeffrey?
I had a rough time in the Cub Scouts. Horrible things. I don't want to go into it.
I should mention that I did also go to Korea. I did a documentary about the Korean War, so it was perfect for me. And I was dazzled with how accurate our producers and the production team had been when I was there watching these mountains. It was the beginning of my show with the helicopters coming over those mountains in the beginning. I thought, how can I have deja vu when I've never been here before? But it was remarkable, and it was a wonderful documentary too. I was really, really happy with what they did, what they said.
Great. All right, we have 2 more questions.
Hi. One of the best things about MASH was not only was it funny, but it was really impactful. And I was wondering if there was any moments in particular in the show, any subjects that y'all covered that really, really impacted you, like maybe Henry Blake's death, or the scene with Alan Alda breaking down because of the baby. Was there anything that touched you personally?
Oh, sure. Yeah. The scene with the nurses, when I show how heartbreaking it was not to be one of the gang, and how lonely it was, quote, at the top, and Margaret was able to show how lonely she was giving orders or being unlikable. She says things like, "You treat me like the enemy," and this very famous quote, which now has become a t-shirt, "You've never even offered me a lousy cup of coffee." And it just was heartbreaking, and I loved it because it showed a side of her that was different. There was a new color that people who loved the character saw that. And I have had fan mail from CEOs thanking me or thanking the show for showing that it's not always easy to take charge and bark orders and do the job, you know. So that for me was a real change in the character, to show that in the character. The other thing that I loved was how they would put combinations together. Jamie and I did an episode called Birthday Girls, and it's my birthday, and he's supposed to drive me to Kimpo to get a plane so that I could get out of Dodge and celebrate my birthday without the 477s trying to find out my age. And I finally tell him, we break down, and I finally tell him why I'm upset and angry. It's my birthday, and he brings me a little cupcake with a match, and it's just so wonderful to see these two combatants, you know, coming together and sharing those private, wonderful moments. And I loved that about what the writers would try to do, put these unlikely pairs together and let's see what would happen. And it was lovely.
I was going to tell you, the Abyssinia Henry, that's the one you were talking about with Colonel Blake. That one was really the first, heartbreaker, earthquake for all of us. And because we had done this show where we say goodbye to Colonel Blake at the helicopter pad. Loretta and I and the rest of the members of the cast, and we wave goodbye to him, and the helicopter takes off he's going back to the United States. He's been discharged and that. So Loretta was dismissed, and I was dismissed, and they were going to shoot the next day. And we all get a telephone call. They said, "Hey, there's an added scene."
Tag.
Yeah, the tag.
Call the tag.
Yeah, and we want you all to come back in to do it. Because I think we thought possibly that saying goodbye to him was the tag. And we came back, and they had this one page there, and it's the famous page where Radar comes in and says that the plane that Henry Blake was on was shot down over the Sea of Japan, and there were no survivors. Well, they didn't tell the entire cast. They didn't tell Jeffrey or any of the other members of the cast. Just Loretta, me, Alan, and the rest of the gang. And some of the, particularly Gary Radar, was very upset about that. He didn't want to do it. And they took us aside into a private area, and everybody had their own opinions of what they thought should be done in that. But the producers said, "Look, war is hell, and that's what happens in war. You lose the people that you love, and we wanted to show you what war really is like." Everybody loved Colonel Blake, and he was killed. So, we didn't tell the cameraman, we didn't tell anybody. They just designed it, to make the shot. And Gary came in and did it in one take. We never even rehearsed it. Jeff, were you on the set that time? You didn't even know that, did you?
No.
Yeah. And it was just, I mean, the letters and things that we got.
And Gene Reynolds said to me that they tried to take advantage of the volume of mail that poured in. How dare you? It's how dare you kill our Mac? And so they had an opportunity to say, we didn't. It was the war. You want to take your anger where it's going to do some good. Let's stop doing war. Okay? You know, it's like it was wonderful. It was a wonderful opportunity that we had. You know,
the reactions then when you see that episode from the rest of the members of it are the true reactions because they hadn't heard about it at all. It's one take and real honesty in that entire scene.
And Mac, of course, Mac was leaving the show, so there was this double entendre going on. We also were saddened to lose Mac. We adored him, and so, but the tears were very real, very, very painful.
All right, well, that is all the time we have. Give a huge Dallas Minute Festival.